we'll hear a welcome message from Dean Steele. Then Carlos Vasquez will have a presentation from Sony Animation titled Portfolio 101 and Landing a Job in the Animation Industry. Then we'll have a unique panel of three animators, and we're going to talk about representation in animation, exploring ethnic, social, and gender roles within the animation industry. Then we'll have lunch. So you're all welcome to come down to the lunch room and share lunch with us. We have a special guest for lunch as well. So if you want to talk to a representative from Nomon's College, she'll be here. Then after lunch, we'll do the film showcase, some amazing films to show. And then we'll have closing remarks and we'll give away some merch. So if you want to stay to the end, you'll get some cool stuff. There's some cool things that we've gotten to give away. The other part of what I'm doing here is a thank you. So I'll be rather quick about a thank you, but these are very important because without these people, we wouldn't put this on. So I want to start by thanking Dr. Van Hook, the Chancellor of the Community College District. She's always been very supportive of endeavors like this and fostering kind of extra activities. I'd like to thank Dean Steele for her continued support of the visual arts. I want to, of course, thank my co-hosts here at the International Services and Programs Office. That includes Dr. Jai Chang Levine, Tim Honadell, John Garzone, Maritza Munson, and the entire staff there. And I have to say that without their support and organization, this wouldn't have happened. So really thank them. I want to also thank all of the judges. We had about 250 qualified films to go through. Out of 600 total submissions or so. So the judging was a big part of being able to present the 5 winners in each category. And those judges are Sarah Caldwell, Michael Bonatatis, Miles Horst, Laura Markarian, Stephen Studevin, Sharon Campbell, Stephanie Trackman, Susan Ball, Bhaven Karim, and Jean Miller. And they deserve a big thank you. They really made this possible too. I want to thank Yasser, Isa, and the volunteers from the volunteer office. They helped register you, check you in, and put up signage. I want to thank Chase Oliveira, who's over here helping monitor the Zoom. I kind of talked him into it. I also want to thank Jasmine Rice, the Vice President of Student Services and the Associated Student Government, for giving us some money to get the merch for you guys, as well as a grant from the CCIE, the California Colleges for International Education, and they help provide the lunch for everyone. So thank you, big thank you to them. So without any kind of further ado, I want to start the welcome with our Dean of the Visual and Performing Arts, Dean Steele.
Thank you so much, Jeff, and good morning. As Dean of the School of Visual and Performing Arts here at College of the Canyons, I'm very pleased to welcome all of you here in person in Mentor 305 and our friends online for our International Animation Festival. In only the second year of the festival, we have more than doubled the number of submissions to over 600 this year, and they come from more than 70 countries across the globe and from every continent with the exception of Antarctica. So pretty exciting stuff. And I'm particularly delighted to see so many aspiring animators addressing the serious issues of our time, things that we're grappling with in the depth and breadth of human experience. And so I welcome you and thank you to Jeff Baker, our lead faculty for animation here in the Media Entertainment Arts Department, Dr. Jai Chang Levine, our Dean of International Affairs and Global Engagement, because these two co-hosts have really made today possible. And of course, as Jeff shared, our Chancellor, Diane Van Hook, for whom such events like this would never be feasible. And as I look across at this wonderful graphic created here by part of our animation folks, I want to thank you again for being here Have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you again next year. Thanks very much.
Right. Well, thank you, everyone. So we're going to get started with our first presentation, which is really great. Carlos, you have a little extra time, so I know I had told you a little bit, but let me introduce to you Carlos Vasquez. He is the manager of talent acquisition at Sony Animation, and he's going to talk a little bit about what it's going to take to get into the industry. So I think that's something that you all want to hear about. So Carlos, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, well, welcome everybody. This is a presentation to talk about portfolios and what we're looking for, and specifically also the types of roles that we hire for at Sony Pictures Animation. We'll be going over Portfolio 101 for primarily visual development, character design, and storyboarding. But we'll also go over a little bit of Resume 101 as well, with how you can stand out if you are looking for jobs. So just to talk a little bit about Sony Pictures Animation, what is Sony Pictures Animation, and how did it come to be? So Sony Pictures Animation was started about 20 years ago. It has always been in partnership with Sony Pictures ImageWorks. So Sony Pictures Animation is what we call the front-end studio, which means that we do primarily a lot of the beginning process of the animation, but not necessarily the rest of the process. So pretty much all the way from writing to about storyboards and a little bit of modeling as well. That's all pretty much Sony Pictures Animation, but everything from that stage on where you're rigging a character, you're surfacing or texturing them, all the way to lighting compositing, that's pretty much Sony Pictures ImageWorks. It's been this way since we started, which also sort of leads to a misnomer that Sony Pictures Animation does animation. We actually do just the front end. But that is slowly changing. As about 3 years ago, we actually started a series division, and our series division is a lot more involved in the CG process. And so it's slowly ramping up, but in the next few years, we're going to have a lot of CG series and 2D series that'll be going out on Netflix and Hulu and HBO Max. But there'll be more opportunities that if you are a little bit more interested on the CG side, those will be coming up. But also want to talk about Sony Pictures Animation. So the Sony Pictures Animation of today is not the Sony Pictures Animation that was of yesterday. People probably remember the Emoji Movie, but then right after that was Spider-Verse Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And so the reason for that is actually because of the leader that came in and stepped in. Her name's Christine Bilson, and she actually just had this great philosophy about what animation is and what animation should be. For the longest time, people have this sort of misinterpretation that animation is a genre for children, and that is very much not the case. As you have probably heard, like, animation is a storytelling medium, and it can be used for anything from telling really deep emotional stories to telling really cute, fun stuff. And so that was very much the philosophy where she came in and she's like, we're going to change it, and we're going to not have a house style. We're not going to be sticking to one individual look. We're instead going to be finding creators from all walks of life and allowing them to really bring their stories to life with the things that they love to do and the types of styles that they love to work in and the types of stories that they want to tell. So with that, we now have a second Spider-Verse out, but we also have Mitchell's versus the Machines, which is a completely different look to a movie that hasn't really kind of been in that scale, along with our next film, which is K-pop Demon Hunters, which is going to be, again, pushing the genre of animation into like a new original look. And we're keeping that philosophy along with our for our feature and also with our series as well. So our series are also, once you start seeing them, there's actually some that are already out there. Agent Elvis and Young Love are the first ones that have actually been out there. But there are so many more that are coming that are, again, pushing just animation and trying to tell really interesting stories for both young audiences and old alike. But just to give you a taste of Sony Pictures Animation, in case you don't know it, here is a little bit about Sony. Oh no, audio is like glitching. No.
far.
Well, that is Sony. But I also just want to introduce the team that is not here. But I'm a part of a recruiting team, and we're a relatively small team, but we all do very individualized recruiting within our recruiting team. And so my direct report, Chris Leahy, oversees a lot of our leadership. I myself oversee a lot of the things within the art department and also within our CG department and some production. The recruiter on our team oversees a lot of the storyboards, along with some production. We have a recruiting coordinator who's sort of like our glue that keeps us all together. And then we also have a recruiting sourcer who's a person that's out there looking at all of your amazing art. And so the one note that I want to give with this slide is that most recruiting teams are structured in this manner where there are recruiters that are sort of specialized in the things that they're looking for. And so it's great to have a connection with a recruiter. But even more so building that connection with a person who is directly hiring for the things that you're looking to do. And jumping into like what specific roles do we hire for? So starting with the design and paint roles, or this is the art department. So the way that this is structured is actually sort of the hierarchy of coming from going from the top to the bottom of like how kind of entry level all the way up to the leadership. So the people that are in the leadership positions for the art department will usually be the production designer and the art director. Those people work closely with the directors for the feature films or the showrunners, and they are the ones helping to establish the look and the feel of the movie. So they will build references, build mood boards, hire artists to kind of build out the world or help build the world themselves. But it's great to know that like if you're somebody who's more of a design and paint person, you really like to draw, you really like to paint, not necessarily have to do other parts of the pipeline. This is sort of the path for you. So they will have on their team a variety of different people. If it's more for the feature side, you'll definitely see more visual development and character designers. The visual development role is someone that is sort of encompassing a lot of the different world building aspects and a lot of environments. Also has to do with painting and color. So the visual development artist will be one who will be more focused on like grander picture views of what the overall movie or TV show will look like. The character designer themselves will be more just focused on character designs. They'll be the person who will get from the script how many characters there are, help design the main characters, help design maybe the villagers that live in that world, the other characters, the villain, all of those people. So they kind of work in tandem with each other, with the art director and production designer, to help build that world for the feature film. On the TV side, because it is a little bit more of an assembly line, there are a lot more different specialized roles. So background artist is one of those roles that is a little bit more specific to Sony, but it's somebody who encompasses a little bit of doing background designs and also background painting, and a little bit also of like a viz dev artist as well, where they're the person that is going in and figuring out how the world is going to look. They think about the world in a very CG sense as well. So it's more for CG series or CG TV shows. But they are, again, working very closely with the art director or potentially a production designer as well to really help build out the world. On the more 2D side and sometimes also on the CG side, you'll have a background designer and a background painter. Usually the background designer will be just doing the line work, or they'll be figuring out three-dimensionally like how the environment will look. The background painter will be the one who will be taking that line work and actually applying paint to it, and they'll be the ones figuring out very specifically, like if this is set to be in a certain, using color and color theory to like figure out the mood and tone with the paint and really applying textures and that sort of thing. And then the more what we normally call like entry level or more easier to kind of get into positions, usually that's at the bottom with prop designer. So a prop designer is very much that person who is just designing the props. So like they're designing swords, they're designing vehicles, they're designing anything that a character is going to pick up or interact with. And then the other ones are 2D effects artists. So it's the person who's actually drawing the 2D effects for the world. So everything from fire, smoke, water, any of that sort. And then you also have color designer, who is the one taking all of the line work that comes from the prop designers, the 2D effects artist, or also the character designer, and applying the colors in relation to the backgrounds and how the backgrounds have been painted. So as you can see, there's a lot of different specialized roles. And the one sort of big note that I want to make with the way that design and paint roles work within the art department for animation is that really you don't have to be like a jack of all trades and know how to do every single thing perfectly. Like, we want to see that you are a really good color designer, or you are really good just with the line work when it comes to backgrounds, or you're a really solid painter and you love to paint. Even if you can't draw the best, like your plein air paintings and your color sensibility and the way that you're pushing color and lighting is really kind of showing us that you think about color in this really holistic sense. So there's a lot of roles and a lot of things to consider when you're, applying for jobs or even looking to specialize as you continue your education. On the story side, it's a little less complicated. Usually for our feature story side, it'll start with the head of story. So our head of story is that person that, again, is working very closely with the director, or sometimes on the series, may have it on the series side, but it's usually working with the film director. And the head of story is taking the scripts and really figuring out how to break this down and how cinematically is this going to look? What are we going for? What type of board artists are we going to need? Or is this going to be more comedy driven? Is this going to be more cinematic and action driven? And so they might even board a lot of the boards doing really, or a lot of the scripts doing really rough boards to try to figure out exactly what the story kind of calls for, and like experimenting with shots and that sort of thing. So the head of story works closely with the director, but then they start bringing on their team. And so usually their team will consist of storyboard artists. And so they'll be working with a lot of storyboard artists to really pan out figuring out how much work is needed and how many types of storyboard artists are needed for the actual written for the script. So they'll essentially evaluate the types of work that is needed and will hire storyboard artists to sort of fit that need. On the series end, it's a little bit more complicated. So typically for the series end, you'll have either a supervising producer, supervising director, and they work very much in that sort of idea of the head of story, where they're working with the CG, or they're working with the showrunner to figure out on the writing side what is needed, and very much figuring out, again, like how many board artists we'll need, how many episodic directors we'll need, which we'll get to in just a second, and also how many storyboard revisionists we'll need. And they very much figure out their teams to try to understand the complication of the show, and also if it's more of a board-driven show versus a script-driven show, which board-driven is just like they give the storyboard artists their premise, and then they kind of have them go off to the races with creating a storyboard, versus script-driven, where they actually have a script and they have to board. So those two people, or either one or the other, sometimes both, will be working, like I said, with the showrunner to kind of figure out the overall look of the storyboard team. And another role that's very specific to series is episodic director. And so episodic director is exactly what it sounds like. They're directing the episode. And so they are essentially the informed leader for that episode. They know everything about it. They know how many characters, they know what we're trying to achieve. They work very closely with the supervising producer and director to really kind of have this brain trust to allow them to kind of push that episode and really kind of make it exactly what the showrunner wants it to be. And then usually those episodic directors will have a couple of storyboard artists and a couple of storyboard revisionists on their team. And so those will be the ones who are actually executing the work. So the storyboard artists will be the ones given either pages, or they'll be given a whole episode and they'll be asked to script or to board it. And then once it gets to the level where they need it to be, then the storyboard revisionist will go in and they'll actually be the one who will be kind of cleaning it up. And so to call out some of the more entry-level storyboard roles, usually storyboard revisionist and storyboard apprentice, which is our kind of a revisionist title for our feature side, are the ones that kind of come in and they're the like storyboard artists in training. So usually with that, they work in that capacity for usually about a year or two, and then after that, they're ready for a storyboard artist position. So that's just to call out the story side. Next, we have the non-artistic studio roles. So if you're not an artist, or if you're not sure if you want to be an artist, I just want to call out some of the other avenues that you can kind of go into. So there's production. So production is those folks on the end. And so production will be the ones that will be working very closely to allow the actual show to happen. They are tracking assets, they are tracking the budget, they're tracking the schedule. They're making sure that everything is running according to plan. So if you're more of that person that's behind the scenes, that really just likes organizing all of the artists, getting them together and like making sure something happens, your production side will be probably more for you. Starting with the top there, usually we have a producer, line producer. Those people will be the ones in charge of the actual production, either a TV show or a feature film. And they'll be the ones that'll very much be looking at the like budget and schedule for everything and making sure that everything is running according to plan. Right under them, they'll have production managers and also associate production managers. These will be the ones who will be more of the like on the floor, checking to see how things are going, making sure that there's nothing that's going wrong, there's nothing that's getting too crazy or backed up. And so they'll be the ones who will flag things or fix things. So that way the line producer, the producer don't have to worry about it. And then usually those people have teams who will either be separated into departments or separated into episodes. Usually those will be the production coordinators and the production assistants. And so those two people will be working on either specific parts of the, specific episodes or specific departments within the production. And then the other call out that I want to make is we usually have office coordinators. So office coordinators are sort of like our office production assistants, so that they are a more entry-level role. So if you don't necessarily have a production background or a lot of not of knowledge in production or office coordinator is a great way to start, because it allows you to kind of be it's an interim almost between intern and production assistant, where you're just learning a lot. And then the other thing that I want to mention is the creative and overhead department. So there are many ways to be creative in animation, and production is one of those in its own way, but there are also other ways. Artist management are the people who are in charge of the artists. We have creative development, which are the people who are reading the scripts and actually helping make the next content. We have marketing and PR, who are the ones on social media, creating like social media things, working with marketing campaigns and like helping create the billboards and all of the things that you kind of see to help market the film. And then we have talent acquisitions, which is what I do, which is creative in its own way, where we're the ones looking at artists and helping bring artists to the studio. So that was pretty much it in regards to all the roles that we hire for typically at the studio. Now let's go into portfolio tips and tricks. So before I talk, I actually want to let Justin K. Thompson, one of the co-producers for Spider-Man, explain what he looks for in animation or visual development. Oh no.
So I'm a director at Sony Pictures Animation.
It's not working.
When I look at a portfolio, one of the first things that I'm looking for is a clear presentation, and I like to be able to easily tell what position you're applying for. For example, if you...
I'm sorry, what is going on? Try this again.
Hey, Thompson, I'm a director at Sony Pictures Animation. I stopped by today to give you some portfolio tips when submitting to us for any position here at the studio. Portfolio, one of the first things that I'm looking for is a clear presentation, and I like to be able to easily tell what position you're applying for. For example, if you're applying for character design, put all your character designs at the front of the portfolio. Don't have a bunch of things in front of it that I have to flip through. So much easier to grasp how you want me to think of your work if I see the things that are most important to you up front. Don't hesitate. the color studies that show your thought process, because we're telling stories at Sony Pictures Animation. When we're making movies, it really all is about telling a story. So all the little work that got you there really tells us how you think, how you tell a story. And they give us insight to who you are as an artist and what you can bring to the creative process. It's a great question. When it comes to seeing style in a portfolio, you know, we don't have a house style at Sony Pictures Animation. So really, we make all kinds of movies and they're all different. And every film, every crew of artists that we put together, we're looking for different kinds of artists. So really your portfolio should be a representation of what you're, the style
What's going on?
Whether it's graphic, if it's anime, if it's moody, if it's happy, you know, painterly, whatever it might be, impressionistic. We'd really like to see that when we talk about the movies we're putting together as we're forming our teams. We're looking for a fun project, we're looking for fun artists. For a serious project, we're looking for more serious artists. Don't limit yourself to what you really enjoy. Or fun to work with somebody who really wants to be doing that thing that they have in their portfolio. It would be easy enough for us to like hire somebody and put them on a project and just hope they can wing it. But if we can find people that are really passionate about something, that's actually much more valuable to us because we know we're going to get better work out of them. When I'm looking at a portfolio specifically for character design, I'm looking for personality. I'm looking for the emotion of the characters to come through, not just on their faces, but in their whole design, the silhouette, all the acting that goes into their gesture, into the clothing that you design for the character. It should all tell a story. I should be able to understand the personality. And we do create a lot of the things that are standard for a production pipeline, like T-poses and lineups, but the concept designs and the sort of inspirational drawings, the drawings that show acting and staging and emotion, those are the drawings that really attract us to the character designer. In terms of the pipeline stuff, we like to see a few pieces that show that you understand that if you have it. I'd rather have a character designer who understands emotionality and gesture and personality and performance a lot more than I'd rather have somebody with just their arms at a neutral pose. So try and fill your portfolio with as much of that as possible. When we're talking about a visual development portfolio or like, let's say a painter, it's really important to remember that just like a character designer, that environment is also a character. I love portfolio pieces that are incredibly descriptive, showing like what a character's life is like. You know, how did they grow up? What choices did they make? You know, what music are they into? It's not as helpful for me to see like that you can just draw a perspective. Composition, you need color and lighting. You need to show that you have an understanding of that. But even more importantly is that you can tell a story. That you can tell all the story that the character doesn't have time to say on screen. The character's talking to his mom or his dad, but I want to know what his life was like before this argument. I should be able to see that in the set dressing behind them. And I want to be able to understand, how do they live? What is their, what's the tone of the film? Is it somber? Is it happy? Is it sad? Those don't have to just be blue or red in order to be angry or sad. That could just be, honestly, just how the room is decorated. It can tell me a lot about a person. When we talk about gesture and acting and performance with character design, it's just as important for the environments. But it's true, just about anywhere we can find artwork. These days, the most common places we find that artwork is on the internet. It could be websites, it could be films, the Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter. I myself personally, I scroll all these sites daily looking for artists and cataloging them almost like in a Rolodex. Oh, someday I might need an artist to do that kind of thing. But portfolio submissions directly to the studio are great too. But we are always looking, and really helps us if you can hashtag your artwork. Actually, we do search hashtags. You put cartoon, if you put animation, if you put anime, fantasy, magical, comic book, whatever it might be. We never know when the next fantasy magical movie we're going to make is, or when the next comic book. Make it so that we can find it. The more platforms you put your artwork across, the easier it is for us to find you, because we're always looking. one of the biggest ones is put like your wow piece first. I actually like to say have a wow piece in the beginning, the middle, and the end. You want to have something that like keeps people interested and keeps them going. And you want to start on a high note and you want to bookend it with a high note at the end. You leave people starting and ending with something that is going to make them remember you. I think it's better to have 5 to 10 pieces of work that wow me than to have 20 or 30 pieces that left me feeling like sort of so. Less is more. Another one, it seems kind of obvious, but you get where people don't put their name on it, they don't put their contact info, their website, their link, put all of that stuff, put it on everything. And that's about it. Thank you so much for watching these portfolio tips. We really look forward to your submissions and good luck to all of you. Looking forward to seeing your work.
Cool. Thank you, Justin. So the top 3 things that I want to mention coming from Justin, and also the way that we look at art as recruiters is 1, we want strong fundamentals. That's how we know you're ready to then go to Justin for him to then to review your work. So what are the fundamentals? So talking about the fundamentals, it's really just the art fundamentals, what makes your art great. So first, draftsmanship. We want to make sure that your line work is consistent. You have a strong understanding of how to use your pencils, use your paintbrush. We want to make sure that when we're looking at your work, it doesn't seem inconsistent, and everything sort of feels like it's at the same level. So making sure that you really understand how to just draw. So next is perspective. And so perspective is understanding exactly what that is. To 1 to 2 perspective, 1 perspective, 2-point perspective, 3-point perspective. So really understanding the grasp of like when designing environments, how you can kind of push those perspectives and create things that kind of really feel like they exist in the real world. And so having a strong understanding of that helps your environment sort of pop and really helps us as well see that you can design a background or environment or a place that is sort of rooted in reality. Next is anatomy, especially if you're a character designer, you really want to have a deep understanding of skeletal structures, muscle structures, things of that sort to help push your characters once you get to that point where you're ready to really push them in a stylization. But having a deep understanding of just how human anatomy is drawn and how it works and the muscle structures and skeletons and really like where bones fit in your body helps you when you are then pushing your artwork to that next level. Next is color theory, especially if you're on the painting side or visual development or background painting. Like we want to know that you understand color theory very well. We want you to be able to push colors and not just paint what you see in reality, but know how colors evoke mood and feeling and how you can create a sense of cinematic lighting or create the sense of beautiful sort of really thoughtful pieces that help push people's emotions when they look at it. And next is understanding of lighting and more so contrast. Understanding how when you put pieces together and when you're painting, like really where's the light hitting, how the light is reflecting off surfaces, how you can create dramatic lighting, that sort of thing. And then lastly, in putting it all together is composition. So when you're creating your pieces, understand, like what foreground, midground, background, or even farther background elements are, and how you can create a piece that really pushes pushes the eye and helps create this great narrative in the way that you're just putting all the pieces together. And so once you have the fundamentals down, that's when we're like, okay, this person is ready. Let's see who they are as an artist. And so that's where Justin's tips really come into place, that thought process and that storytelling. So that thought process is us seeing like how you are creating these characters, what you're pulling from, who, like if you're referencing specific kinds of dresses or specific kinds of time periods, like where is that coming from? We want to see iteration. If you're designing a character, we want to see you design multiple versions of that character and how those multiple versions then come to be that final piece. Or if you're designing environments, we want to see how you are, how many different sort of thumbnails that you did of maybe that environment, or if you were playing with different types of styles as well, like maybe you were going for like a steampunk style, but then you decided against that and you went for more of like a fantasy style. We want to see that in your portfolio. We want to see your thought process. So it's almost like showing your work when you do a math problem. So we want to see how you came up with that final solution, mainly because it helps people like Justin and our art directors and production designers get into your mind and understand how your art became your art in the way that you were kind of pushing it. And then lastly, storytelling. And this kind of also goes to exactly what Justin's saying, where we want to see who you are as an artist. This is where your personal style comes into play. This is where you are boiling down all of the things that have influenced you to be an artist. And we want to see that on the page. We want to see if you're somebody who loves Spider-Verse, but you also love Tim Burton, and you're like trying to figure out a way to make those two work, we want to see that in your work. So really, at the end of the day, it's not necessarily about copying somebody else's style or copying what else is working just to try to get a job. We really want to just see that you have your own personal brand as an artist, because there's going to be so much work out there and everybody's going to be looking for something that's very specific. So if you aren't pushing your art to be specific in a sense, you're going to fall at the wayside when there's other people who are really pushing their art to be very Spider-Verse or very SpongeBob or very whatever. So just keep that in mind as you're making art. So talking specifically about character design, so Justin touched upon some of this, but the top 3 things that we look for when we feel like it's then now ready to go to someone like Justin is, 1, like I said, a strong understanding of anatomy. We want to make sure that you have a deep-rooted sense of how to draw people, and then from there, you're pushing it out. And that's where originality comes into play. So originality is really just, again, your storytelling, you as an artist, how are you creating characters that feel different and new and unique? And then with that appeal, so it's not necessarily making things look pretty, it's just like we want things that are interesting to look at and help draw people in and want to learn more about that character. You don't want just a generic character A who has just a t-shirt and pants on. You're like, well, why do they have a t-shirt and pants on? What's on their shirt? What's on their pants? Are they scuffed up? If you look at a lot of artwork for Spider-Verse and also Mitchell's vs. the Machines, there's so much that went into a lot of these characters. And that being said, I actually want to showcase how Hobie, probably the most complicated character that we've ever created at Sony, came to life. Oh. I have no idea what's happening.
It was a no-brainer that Hobie Brown Spider-Punk had to be in the movie because it was visually such an exciting idea.
What we all fell in love with Hope.
Oh.
Consistency for the man and for any rules.
I don't believe in teams.
Aren't you in it, man?
I don't believe in consistency.
Hobie Brown was one of the characters I was most scared of figuring out because
I don't know if there's the
that's such a
They were able to get to there was no artistic. He's punk, but it's making the most punk you can make. They're looking at makeup and piercings and hairstyle. We're looking at the Afro punk movie.
Render in a whole different way. It's more graphic than any other character.
The Spider-Punk comes from the world New London. That's basically a collage of punk rock posters come to life.
The 8 a.m., 8 p.m., 8 a.m.
We wanted it to look like photocopied punk posters that have that rebellious attitude.
And he's supposed to look like every time you see him, every time he moves, it's someone reassembling. So he's got this very sort of cut and pasted look to him.
How would you be even cooler under your mask?
Oh, this one, it's not-
Yay. Oh, sorry. So the last thing that I just want to leave with just the design side of things and design and paint is that just remember, what are your artistic choices communicating? So as you're putting your portfolio and your work out there, and you have a very specific brand that is yours, make sure that people understand that and that they resonate in the same way that you're resonating with. So if there are, if you're going for, like I said, Spider-Verse meets Tim Burton, and that's your brand, and that's the look that you want to go out into the world with, and people are looking at your stuff and they're like, well, it just feels like it's a really dark steampunk. Like it's not giving what it's supposed to give. So at that point, you can be like, well, what can I do to kind of push that and really make that into the language and the art and the style that I want it to be? And so just as you're making work, just keep that in mind. So now going over to storyboards. For storyboards, I want to start off with what we're looking for, the 4 biggest things in storyboards and what makes your boards then stand out to us to help us kind of move you on to the next level. So the 4 things, one being clarity. We want to make sure that when you are creating storyboards, it's easy to read. We understand what's going on. Even if you're drawing loose and gesturally, like we understand who the main character is, maybe who the antagonist is and what's going on, if they're fighting, if they're talking, that sort of thing. Next is staging. So we want to understand that as you are putting your characters into the scene, like how are you staging it so that way it makes sense? So if the 2 characters are talking to each other, you know, are they next to each other? Are they, if they're in an argument, are they right next to each other, like face to face, ready to, you know, have a fight? Or, you know, are they walking around the room as they're talking to each other? So understand staging and understand how you're putting your characters together. And this also goes to clarity. So with strong staging, it'll be easier to read your boards and understand what is going on as you play around with camera and that sort of thing. So next is action. So you don't want a board where there's nothing that's happening. It's just panels upon panels of just smaller things. So like you're not animating. You're storyboarding, and with that, you're pushing you're pushing the action along. So you're making sure that something is happening. And so with action, we want you to make sure that you are, as a board artist, allowing things to happen to the characters and the characters reacting to that as well. So if 2 characters, like I said, are in a room having an argument, you're not just back and forth of 2 characters' faces talking to each other. Like there's something that else is happening, and you're pushing the action to help find a resolution at the end of the board. And that finally leads to plot, which is with plot, you know, there is a purpose for your board to exist. And so we want to see that happen. We want to see a story from either beginning or middle to end or beginning to end, but we want to see that there's something that's happening within that board. There is plot. There's something that is pushing the character. There's something the character wants. There's a drive for that character, and there's a reason that you are boarding this out. And so a great example of that is one of the early scenes from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And I want to showcase how the art goes from just the character and the storyboards into the final look. And then the one great thing about this is also, and the one biggest thing that we also tell storyboard artists is that there doesn't need to be dialogue in order to understand what is happening in the board. And this is a great example of that because there's no dialogue at all. And it's just you reacting with the character and you understand what they're trying to do almost immediately. So I'll let this thing talk. Yeah, go. So as you can see, all 4 of those are clearly shown in the board, and there is no dialogue whatsoever. But as you're watching, as you're watching Miles go through this trial of him trying to figure out what his capacity is, you see the clarity in the board of what's going on. Some of the panels were a little bit more cleaned up. Some of them were a little bit more loose, but at no part of the board did you ever feel like you lost the character. Again, staged very well, like you understand where the character is in relation to everything else, what's happening, where are they going. There's great action in it, even though, it's a little bit at the end, but there's action throughout the board in smaller portions. And then also the plot, you understand what the character's drive is. You understand as they're as they start, they're looking at the comic book and you see that very iconic, like he's going to jump, he's going to go do something. And so how does that translate for the rest of the board as that plot kind of drives out into that scene? Once you get to that part where you have those deep understandings of like the fundamentals of being a storyboard artist, that's where we want to, the next thing we want to see is your filmmaking. And really, this is your like personal flair as a storyboard artist. And so for filmmaking, there's timing. So as a filmmaker, you especially as you start sort of specializing within specific types of boards, you want to understand timing very well. If you're somebody who really loves action and you want to do a lot more action boards, there's a specific timing to the way that people fight. If you look at Dragon Ball Z, if you look at even Spider-Verse, like there is timing to it. If you're somebody who is a little bit more of a comedy board artist, you want to understand how to land jokes. SpongeBob is a great example of really strong comedy boards because there's so many gags and there's so much stuff where it's just like dumb and it's funny and it works. Next is gestures. So you want to be able to really push your drawings in a great sense that allows for anybody looking at your board to understand what's going on, what the characters are thinking. So much of the way that so much of language is body language. And so gestures and also performance, which kind of go hand in hand, really allow people to understand that as your character is moving, like what are they thinking? Are they angry? Are they upset? Are they contemplating? Are they getting ready for something? And so so much of that can be in the body language of the characters as you are drawing them. And that leads to then performance. So really, as a storyboard artist, you're also the actor. So you are allowing these characters to perform with each other. And so you're that person who's giving that template to then the animator who will push those performances, but really you're the one who's blocking in and staging all these characters and really allowing these characters to react with each other as things are happening in the script or in the board that you are drawing. And so having a deep understanding of gestures allows for that, and then a deep understanding of performance. One big recommendation for people who are not really sure how to push their characters is take some improv classes, take some acting classes, because it actually helps. And you see that all the time with a lot of people who reference just themselves. They film themselves, they do the scene, and then they board the scene because they know then it's like, okay, if I do that, then if I do this, like maybe I tweak it a little bit differently, like then I can like really push my boards. Next is camera. So again, as a storyboard artist, you're not just the actor, but you're also the cinematographer. So understanding camera moves, have a Rolodex of shots in your head of like, okay, if I'm going for this really dramatic shot, how do I stage the characters? How do I put the camera in a very interesting way to really give the sense of like maybe a David versus Goliath moment? Or if you want to board cinematically, understand what camera choices are being used, and that'll help you as well as you're boarding and understanding if you have a certain scene and you're like, I'm trying to achieve this in the scene, how can I use the camera as the other actor to really build that performance, really sell what I'm trying to do. Once you get to that point, then next is style. So as a storyboard artist, you're also like, a director, and every director has a very specific style, whether it's Wes Anderson or Tim Burton. And so you start to understand the specific types of shots, the specific types of shot choices or staging or the way that characters act or react and that sort of thing. And so you start building your own specific type of style as a storyboard artist. And that helps sell you even more because people then understand, like, if we want to go for this really strong, dramatic performance, like we know we can go to so-and-so. Or if they want something really fun and cute and comedy, they know they can go to this other person. So that style starts building in as the more you start boarding. And then last is genre. So genre is pretty much exactly what it is. So and understanding, what type of board artist you are, whether it's more of comedy, action, or romantic comedy, drama, that sort of goes hand in hand with style as well. But it's understanding that, as you get to that point where you are a solid storyboard artist, it's a lot of understanding who you are, what is your personal identity, and how does that come across in your boards. So another cool example and a movie that is super underrated, but definitely recommend if you haven't watched it, is Vivo. So I just wanted to have you see all of these filmmaking tips showcased in the boards. Sorry.
The plan was the two of us, next thing you know, the two of us floating, drifting somewhere. Said we take a shortcut. See how we make it through. Remember the size of the world we own was you and I, just you and I. And now the horizon holds so much more. It's do or die, yeah, it's do or die. All I can do when the road bends curve. All I can do when the tanks run dry. We'll see what's in the order. No, I can do when the planes break down, stay on my feet. And no, I can do at the end of the day is play on, keep the beat.
Hey, Vivo, are you scared? My dad used to sing to me when I was scared.
So did I'm next.
Hey, we could sing Martha's song. That would cheer us up. I know you, just on enough. Okay, watching you saw it. Drumming's in my blood. I can teach you if you want.
You're gonna teach me how to play drums?
Here, Vivo, check this out.
That thing you're doing is noise. Observe.
I think you'd be a really good teacher.
Oh, my God.
Whoa, this sounds good.
Yeah, I see potential. Raw.
Come on, Vivo, let loose, Grandpa.
Grandpa, did Grandpa do this?
Oh, yeah, Vivo.
Remember the size of the world. Oh, now it's you and I. Yes, you and I. Now the horizon is so much more.
Okay. So yeah, so as you can see that there's examples of all of that in all of the filmmaking tips that we just talked about. But yeah, timing and the way that, you know, they're emotional musical beats, gesture drawing or gestures, the way that the characters are interacting with each other. And for those who haven't watched the movie, the characters can't actually talk to each other. Vivo just talks to the camera that essentially we can hear, but the characters can't speak each other's language. And so there's a lot of gestures in the way that the characters are reacting with each other, which then leads to the performance. And then also the camera's moving constantly. There's a lot of different camera choices that they're making to really help build this emotional moment of these two characters who may not really get along, but as they start building the song together, you kind of see the camera go from these two kind of perspectives to then that final perspective of the camera sort of swinging with them and almost seeing them as one character. And then style and genre, this is a musical comedy board, and it lends itself to that. It's really sort of digging in to the way that, you know, you think about musicals, the way that you think about the, you know, comedy and the way that, you know, the musicals sort of work in a very Disney-esque sense. That is some storyboard tips, but before we end, I just want to give also some storyboard tips from the amazing Guillermo Martinez and Caitlin Van Arsdale, who worked on Mitchells versus the Machines. So they'll be able to dig in even further than I just did.
I'm Caitlin. I'm a storyboard artist at Sony Pictures Animation.
Hey everybody, my name is Guillermo Martinez and I'm director at Sony Pictures Animation. And I'm allowed to give you guys some tips to help.
Sorry, the sound has been very fun to deal with.
So the main things that I would look for in a story portfolio would definitely begin with ability to understand filmmaking. If I can see that in your sequences, you understand shot progression, that's a huge deal. I think, a story artist's job is to make sure that the story makes sense, that the character acting is appropriate, and that the audience appropriate emotion when they see what's happening on screen.
Well, that's an interesting question because, like, for example, at Sony, we don't have no particular house style. We have like the Hotel Transylvania, the same way we have Spider-Man. So it's all different styles. And for me, it's less about like trying to make sure that you apply to the same visual style, but like you should have multiple styles in the sense that you should have a piece that's really good with comedy. You should also have a piece that's really good with drama. You should have a piece that's really good with like action sequences. And if you can actually like have a portfolio that like, shows me that you can be good at all these three things. I think sometimes that's really impressive. But it's like rehearsal and making a strong portfolio.
I think if you have the time and the energy and the however, it's not necessary if that's not something that fits into your wheelhouse. I think for me, I like to click through storyboards so that I can see the progression and see how your sequence is moving along. That being said, as long as it's clearly laid out and I can see, where it needs to go, that's totally fine. But anything that you can do, and that's within your ability to sort of like make it even more quick through the sequence, the better.
All we do in these films is just like, these are all character studies, it's studies of the human condition. Being able to like study the way humans are is so important. The best way to like study reality, life, is just by going out there. Like go to a coffee shop and just like draw people and like just how they like sit down and analyze how like that shows like a particular emotion. And just trying to be as real as possible. Some of the best lessons I've learned in regards to like how humans work, other than like going to like outside in the bar or a coffee shop and drawing, is like watching a lot of documentaries. Seeing documentaries really show there's no overacting. It's like more like you see a human being more than your voice and really like to show what humans really are and not just try to copy what other animated movies have. I think you're in a good spot where it's like making yourself a stronger storyteller and the best character.
I think the tendency for a lot of people, myself included, is to do too many panels. I think less economical you can be, the better. In feature, we have a little bit more leeway in terms of backgrounds and how many shots we can include. But I think a mark of a really good storyteller is somebody who can get the point across in less panels and less shots. So keep that in mind and understand that showing more doesn't necessarily make the sequence better.
The more you can stay away from animated movies, the better yourself will become. At least for me, like I remember taking improv classes, but don't forget about it too much, but it's like super valuable when it comes to telling stories about characters. It taught me more about when I'm acting like a particular character, when am I making this decision. It was less about like trying to make people laugh and more about like understanding why a character would say something, and then you drop. Oh, if you're true to yourself, like a lot of comedy will come out of it.
First and foremost, I would say watch a lot of movies. Draw the shots that you see on screen. When you watch a sequence, it comes off as really emotional or it's really effective in some way. Draw every single shot, pause the movie and draw every single shot that you see. It'll help you sort of expand your Rolodex of shot choices and it will help you process and what makes an effective sequence and how to break that down. I think nowadays it's a little bit different than it used to be. I think people are relying a lot on people's online presence. It's not everything to have, followers or on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, but I do think that people use those resources a lot more now to find talent. So participate in those portfolio hashtags that you see online, post consistently if you can, if you're able to, and just make sure that you have some sort of easily accessible online presence so that recruiters who do find your work can see what you have to offer.
I've seen portfolios where the art is amazing. It's just like everything is like perfect, and I'm like, oh, this person, I really want to hire them. Found them, and they are like, who are these people? They have no names, they have no emails, no phone numbers, no way of contacting the person. Make it easier for us to be able to contact. If you have an artist name, like I know some people have their artist name be like some weird thing, but that's not your actual name. I'm like, give me your actual name. Can you just have like your artist name and at the bottom, oh my God, this is my name. It does really help because like there's been artists that I've been trying to try for, but they're so hard to find. Then I give up and I'm like, ah, let's get for someone else. So I will say like name, phone number, email, what easy way to contact.
I hope some of these tips have helped. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see some of your work moving forward and see some of you enter the industry soon.
Hey, thank you, Caitlin and Guillermo. So just some final design and story tips and tricks. So some of just recapping what we heard. But organize your work. Make sure that it's easy to find. Make sure you ideally have a website, even if it's a Google site or some place that we can easily find and drop in and see your work. I always recommend a website, even if it is a little bit more of a cost, because it allows you to tell your own narrative and allows your work to be put in the way that you feel best represents who you are and the type of jobs that you want in the industry. And also social media. Use social media to your advantage. All of the artists that you heard talk today are using social media. They're on Instagram, they're on Tumblr, they're on Twitter, they're on Behance, they're on ArtStation. They're out there, they're putting their work. So make sure that you're in all of these places as well. So that way you are posting your work and also interacting with the art community as well. Like it's great to interact in person, but it's also, don't forget that you can also interact virtually as well. Follow your favorite artists, comment on their work. You'll be surprised sometimes they're checking their comments, and they also love to know that their work is well received. So if you comment, I love your art, it could lead to a connection that you might not even expect. Also less is more. So as Justin said, and also Caitlin, you don't have to have a million panels in your storyboard, and you don't have to have a million pieces in your background design or background paint or character or viz dev portfolios. Really curate your work, understand what is your best work and how to really showcase your best foot forward. If you don't know what that is, ask your friends, ask your colleagues, ask your faculty, help them curate your work. And even if it leaves you start with 20 pieces and you end up with 3, at least you know those 3 pieces are the best pieces that are out there. And that's the work that you should then be striving to put more in your portfolio. Next is understand the studio that you're applying for. As Guillermo said, the great thing about Sony is that we make Hotel Transylvania, but we also make Spider-Verse. It's so 2 drastically different types of movies. But certain studios, not going to name names, only like their type of work to be shown when you're applying to their portfolio or their job application. So make sure that you're curating your work for those specific types of studios when you are applying. And if you hear other recommendations from other recruiters on what Nickelodeon is looking for, what Disney's looking for, take those into consideration when you are applying. And you can create, like I said, if you have a website, you can create different drop links into your website that will be specific to the work that those recruiters are looking for. Next, and this was touched upon by all of the people, but study industry artist work, study if there's a specific shot that you really love and you're like, I want to create really cinematic, very emotional Pixar type pieces, like understand why those pieces work, understand how they made them. Or if you're like, I want to do the Spider-Verse style, then understand Spider-Verse and understand, follow those artists that are out there that are creating that look and look at their work, do master studies, do, really break it down. Like, how is it that Hobie Brown was created? Like study Chris Anka's work. And then also study live action as well. There's so much to be learned from live action. And a lot of people, especially within animation, forget that animation really is bringing reality, the world to life and elevating it. And so you can't do that if you're just looking at other animated films. You have to go out there, experience life. Hayao Miyazaki's one of his most famous quotes is reacting. Animation is really just elevating art or elevating life. And really understanding life in order to create it and put it on screen. And so, so these are some final tips, but We're getting close to time, so I'm gonna quickly peruse some of this other stuff. So production management. So if you are not an artist and all of this stuff is just gonna be on your head and you're like, I just want to do more of the technical stuff. Well, what should your resume look like? And really, what should you be doing to land your internships or land, a production assistant position or an office coordinator position? And so here we have Miles Morales, who applied to be a production assistant. He doesn't have any animation experience, but he has worked in a lot of very relevant industries. And so some of the things I want to highlight that like make this resume sort of stand out to me is that he really understood what a production assistant does and has tailored his experience to that. So as an executive assistant to the CEO at Parker Industries, he's managed the CEO schedule. He's helped with company-wide travel and office space. He tracks company monthly expenses and curates expense reports. He drafts meeting agendas and maybe even takes meetings. And so stuff like this where it's like, oh, wow, like this is not related at all to animation, but that's exactly the type of skill set that we're looking for. Also, he has a really great about me. He lets us know that his long-term goals are to work in animation and produce content and become a professional artist someday. But right now he is, looking to, break in, and he wants to like do that, learn the process first. And then also he has really great volunteer experience as well. Like he's volunteered at the NYC Mural Art Collective, where he's assistant organization and painting murals for low-income communities. So stuff like that, where it's like, wow, he's not just out there, pushing his professional goals, but he's also like when he has some free time, going out there and doing things that help the community as well. And also they're related to art and animation. So I can see that there's so much art, there's so much passion for art and animation in this resume. And also some professional skills. And these are just, if you guys have a phone, take a picture of, these are the actual most used softwares for animation. So everything from Microsoft Office to Google Suite, Adobe Creative Cloud, ShotGrid. ShotGrid is very important if you want to go into production. Final Draft if you want to be more on the script and storyboard or script and writing side. Autodesk Maya if you're going to be working in CG roles, and then also knowledge of 2D and 3D animation pipelines. That's one of the biggest things that help you stand out as somebody who's applying for these roles. Is that knowledge of 2D and CG animation pipelines. You can find a lot of YouTube videos on that. But coming into the interviews or even applying with that sort of knowledge helps the producers and helps the people who you're applying, who are interviewing you, understand that they're not starting at square zero. They're starting at maybe square 2 or square 3. And then that helps them feel a little bit better, even if you don't have professional animation experience. Ooh, 10 minutes. Okay. So how do studios find talent? So the last thing I want to mention is passive sourcing and applicants. So these are the two ways that studios, recruiters, people who are out in the industry looking to hire for their teams are looking at talent. So passive sourcing is just our code word for we are always recruiting. As recruiters, we never stop recruiting. We're always looking at art. We're always looking at in social media, LinkedIn, all of these places. We want to, even if we don't have a specific show or a movie that we need to hire for now, we're out there because you never know. And we always want to have a Rolodex of character designers or storyboard artists or people that we can be like, okay, like, all of a sudden, Spider-Verse needs 10 more people. Do I know anybody out there that storyboards in the Spider-Verse style? So make sure that if you don't have a LinkedIn, you have a LinkedIn, you're keeping it up to date. You have that hashtag open for work. If you're out there, you've graduated, you're looking for work. Make sure, like I said, you're on social media, you're on your Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, all the places or anything new. Make sure you're posting consistently as well. So that way your work is still sort of, you're keeping up and you're being relevant, but also, use hashtags. Justin mentioned that he searches hashtags all the time. So like hashtagging your work, doing things like the March of the Robots or hashtag Mermaid or hashtag Inktober, things like that help us find your art. If you're a character designer, do the character design challenges that are out there. And if you're a storyboard artist, you find ways that storyboard artists use social media because it is different across a lot of different storyboard artists. Some of them do comics, some of them do like zine type things with social media, but it's still getting a great sense of who they are and how they storyboard. art sites. So make sure you're putting your work in all of the places you can possibly put it at. Every recruiter, every person who works in animation looks at art differently. So you want to kind of cover all of your bases. If you're more of a CG artist, which I know we didn't touch a lot upon, but make sure you're putting your stuff, your reels on both Vimeo and YouTube. And then IMDb, as you start doing like student films, if any of them sort of run into that, like the film circuit, you know, make sure that you're using IMDb. You can create your own account. You can put like, I was the character designer for this short that's now, you know, out there in the short film circuit. Industry events, so things like Afro Animation plugin, because that's actually coming up. CTN, Lightbox Expo, these are all great places to go and meet animation professionals. But even outside of that, things like LA Comic Con, Long Beach Comic Con, the Designer Con, Pins and Patches Expo, Zine Con. The great thing about animation people is that we love art, we love drawing, we love consuming art. And so we're at these places, we're tabling at these places. And so don't limit yourself to only the ones that are just strictly animation industry only. Like we're out. If it's creative and it's nerdy, we're probably there. And then next is referral. So as you're out there and you're making these connections, make sure that you're building these relationships. Talk to the people that are tabling. Tell them that you want to be a character designer or storyboard artist or a production person. Ask if, you know, they have any advice or how did they break in. You know, the great thing about when you're at these industry events is that you know they might have the time to be able to give you 10 minutes to just talk, or 5 minutes, or they might be like, I really like your vibe, like let's do a virtual coffee or something like that. And then once you have those referrals and once you have those connections, then they can send over your name whenever they're like, hey, I met with this person. They're really great. They're really passionate about animation. Like they don't really know what they want to do yet, but like, can you talk to them? And so that's how we build connections. And that's how we also, you build your relationship with recruiters and with the studio professionals. And lastly, is things like this, college and school recruitment events. So make sure that you are attending things like this, even if they fall outside of necessarily animation. I know when I was in school, I attended all of these types of talks, whether they're for gaming or they were for publishing or they were for VFX. Like it helps you to understand how different industry works, especially because in animation, a lot of people move around these creative industries. They start in gaming, they start at Riot, they go to Netflix, they go to Sony, then they go back to Blizzard, and, you know, or they go to Blizzard. So things like that, you know, even if it doesn't necessarily fall within strictly animation, it's still great to attend because these people have a wealth of knowledge. You want to be gathering all of that, especially if you want to break into a creative industry. And then lastly, applicants. So if you are applying, make sure you're following the career sites of the studios you want to work at. Set Google alerts for those career sites. Set, you know, if you're a character designer, set Disney character designer Google alerts. Set storyboard Sony animation Google alert. So things like that. So when you do apply, you're the first to apply, because typically within these applications, we get hundreds, if not thousands of people applying. And as you saw with our recruiting team, like it's relatively small. We don't have the ability to go through every single person. So we definitely go through first come, first serve and go through as many as we can. So you want to be one of the first people to apply. And then also join industry organizations. So industry organizations like Latinx in Animation, WEA, Animations, Black and Animated, there's so many more that are out there, but find the ones that best represent you and you feel like you're best connected to. But the great thing about a lot of these organizations is they post their jobs. They post the jobs, the internships, the trainees, the actual job applications. They have job posting things that they send out, or newsletters to their members, so that way they can be one of the first people to apply. And also helping build your network, going back to networking, that's a great place to go if you do attend any of their events, to talk to people, to understand, you know, like what other people are out there, make those connections, and really kind of build your relationships and network with all of the animation professionals. And then lastly, there's lots of early career programs, things like internships, training opportunities, apprenticeships. They're going to vary across studio, but make sure that especially if you're in school, apply to as many internships as you can. It's a great way to break into animation, and helps, even if it's maybe not on the creative side, it definitely still helps you in your career, because you understand how a studio works and you understand how overall, you know, you can make yourself a better animation professional, even if you want to pivot into an artistic career further down. So lastly, and I know we're at like 3 minutes, Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter. I mentioned that because we are going to have apprenticeships being posted relatively soon. We're also going to have internships information coming at the end of this year. So follow this stuff so that way you can get a little bit more information about our internship stuff and also our apprenticeship stuff. And yeah, and then also it just is really cool. We post about studio life at Sony, and then we also post a lot about the cool films and any trailers and stuff like that. So I will, everybody, okay. Go on to the next one, but and that's all. So I'm gonna wrap up, but there's a presentation that's gonna happen in like 2 minutes. So thank you all. If you want to stay connected with us, you can use fill out this QR code. I would say, since for the sake of time, just take a picture of it and then go do it later. But I appreciate you all just allowing me to give you some information, and I hope this was informational and you guys all got a good sense of, you know, what we're looking for here at Sony.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you very much. So I know you have to run. So Carlos unfortunately has to run, so he can't take questions right now. But if you're interested in talking with Carlos or you have some questions, please email me and we'll talk more maybe later on. Carlos has offered to do some virtual Q&A instead. So if you have questions, think of them, table them, write them down, and then, you know, we'll get it out there to him in the near future. Do you want to extend as like what is that? Oh, so you can email me, my jeff.baker@canyons.edu. All right, thank you again, Carlos.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Films, they ranked all the films we showed. And then we assembled them together. There was a scoring, so the winner was based on that score. So at the end, we'll show or we'll announce the winner of your favorite film. So the people's choice of the films, and that can be any of these films. It can be from any of the categories that you see. So if you see something you like, remember it and use the QR code to vote. And at the end, we'll announce that winner as well. So we have basically 5 categories, 3 age groups. We have secondary that we're going to show in a moment, secondary school, then lower division, which is for community college students, and which is lower division students, which is community college students like you, and second-year students and 4-year programs. And then we have a 4-year upper division as well. We also have 2 special categories for films about climate change and for films about social media. And we kind of expanded the idea of social media. It also includes some other kind of stories about you know, real life events, if you will. So I'm going to show you these films. So this is just a little bumper.
Každý na světě má v pupku špínu a ta si tam lebedí tak dlouho, dokud se nedostane ven. Toho našeho špínu spláchla voda a dostal se tak mimo bezpečí svého pupíku. Voda ho odnášela potrubím až na světlo světa, do divočiny na louku, která je plná různých příšer, například mravenců, pro které je taková špína velkou pochoutkou. Zachránila ho odvážná beruška. Prchajícího špínu i berušku ale stihl déšť a havarovali. Pan špína neváhal a přivolal berušce pomoc. Jako znak díků mu královna berušek věnovala křídla. Místo samoty v pupku našel novou rodinu a nové přátele. Stal se jedním z nich.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Aji gobi agi, matar aa gaya, gajar aa gayi, gobi aa gaya, pulya aa gaya, palak aa gayi, methri aa gayi, टमाटर रोगन, कद्दू रोगन, तिला दा तेल, जैतून दा तेल, गुलाब दा तेल, मोतिये दा तेल, चमेली दा
मुस्तफा ओए ओए गल सुन तेनू आवाज नहीं आती पई है
पालक आ गई मेथरी आ गई टमाटर आ गया मिर्चियां आ गई जी
चल अंदर चल चल
भाई 2 रुपए की टॉफी देना
ओए ओए छेती छेती हथ चला छेती छेती हथ चला
Walking in the forest, the sound of the wind is my only witness. I go alone and with no direction. I stop for a minute to admire the beauty of the sky. I wish I was a cloud, free and surrounded by other clouds. Maybe that way I wouldn't feel so lonely. However, as lonely as my life sounded, I always felt the presence of someone else. He was my shadow. He followed me everywhere. I couldn't enjoy any time by myself because he was present. I hate his horrible voice. I hate the horrible way he looks. I hate his boring personality. I hate every single aspect of him. Tired of this. Tired of him. I decided to turn around and face my shadow. Go away, I said. I can't, he responded. I kept telling him how much I hate him for hours. But the more I insulted him, the more it faded. But getting rid of my shadow just made me feel worse. I felt empty. I realized I wasn't just losing my shadow. I was losing myself. I felt my heart breaking. I immediately stopped. My shadow was gone. Deep in my soul, I regret losing a part of me. Walking in the forest, this time I didn't feel alone. The only one who has always been there was my shadow. I forgave myself, and I apologized to my shadow. I hugged him as tightly as anyone has ever hugged me before. And finally, I was one with him. I embraced who I am. I became best friends with me, myself, and my shadow. The feeling of loneliness was gone forever.
Welcome to our school, Lewis. Could you fill out this form for me, please? Thank you very much. Amy, could you show him around, please?
It's, never mind.
Hey, why are you purple? Wait, can you even talk? Is this some kind of disease?
Let's see if he'll say something now.
Hey, give it back!
How about you come and get it yourself?
Here you go.
Thank you.
Come, I'll show you something. This is a good spot. I'm pink, but my skin is naturally blue, so I dye it. After a while, it comes off, especially on my hands. They used to bully me for it, but I learned to not care.
Thank you for sharing.
And by the way, I think your skin is really pretty. Do you want to come and play with us?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Would you be interested in doing a speech at the school open day? It doesn't have to be super long.
Yeah, okay. Welcome everybody. My name is Lewis. My pronouns are they, them. As you can see, my skin is purple. Unlike many of you have assumed, it is not a disease. I was born this color, and there is nothing I can do to change that. This school has taught me that our differences make us unique, so instead of hiding them, we should be proud of them. Thank you.
Could you fill this out for me?
Get out.
Kung meron man akong pinagsisisihan, yun yung hindi ko nasabi yung nararamdaman ko para sa'yo. Sa unang kita ko pa lang sa'yo, alam kong gagawin ko lahat ng bagay na gusto mo. Kahit sa kapahamakan mo pala ako dinala. Pero pinatawad pa rin kita kasi hindi rin naman kita matitiis. Hanggang noong isang araw, umiiyak ka. Para sabihin sa akin na buntis ka, tumigil ang mundo ko. Ang sakit pala. Ang sakit mo palang mahalin. Lalo na nung tinugtungan mo na kinahasa ka ng iyong ama. Naiiyak ako sa galit kasi wala akong magawa. Matagal ko nang alam na sinasaktan ka ng ama mo. Kasi kahit anong pilit mong itago, nakikita ko ang mga pasamo pag pumapasok ka sa eskwelahan. Sinubukan kong ireklamo ito noon sa mga otoridad pero walang aksyon na nangyari kasi makapangyarihan ang ama mo. Sana patawarin mo ko sa aking ginawa dahil sinubukan kong ilagay ang batas sa aking kamay sa sobrang galit sa iyong ama. Sana malaman mo na ginawa ko lahat ng yun para mailigtas ka. Ganon kita kamahal. Dalia.
Hahagpang palapit sa'yo, kabatong hinahabol ang paghinga. Baon ang mga salitang para sa'yo lang. Himig ng dibdib kumakabog dito sa silid kung saan parang tayo lang at walang nakapaligid. Heto na ko, lalapit na sa'yo, ipapadama na ang nadarama.
This way we're gonna be free the...
Ο πατέρας μου ήταν απλόθυμος να βγαίνει έξω. Δεν αντίχε τα μάτια των περαστικών στον δρόμο. Στο σπίτι δεν ήθελε να ανακατευόμαστε πολύ στις υποθέσεις του. Πάντα έλεγε ότι κάποιος τον κατασκόπευε. Ο πατέρας μου είχε πει ότι η Olympia του Μανέ στην ουσία δημιουργήθηκε για τα αδιάκλητα βλέμματα, για να ικανοποιήσει τις επιθυμίες κάποιων ανθρώπων εκείνης της εποχής. Στον ίδιο άρεσε πολύ αυτός ο πίνακας και υπήρχαν αμέτρητα αντίγραφα στο σπίτι. Η Olympia φαίνεται η μοναδική γέφυρα επικοινωνίας ανάμεσα σε μένα και τον πατέρα μου. Ο πατέρας μου πιθανότατα δεν γνώριζε πολύ καλά τους γείτονες. Δεν ήθελε να συνομιλεί με άλλους για οικογενειακές υποθέσεις, διότι πίστευε ότι αυτό πολύ απλά θα ικανοποιούσε την επιθυμία τους μόνο για κατασκοπία. Η μητέρα σεβόταν την ιδιωτικότητα του πατέρα. Ίσως και να μην ήταν σεβασμός. Ίσως απλά δεν μπορούσε να κάνει τίποτα άλλο. Ο πατέρας μου στο λεωφορείο δεν ήθελε να κοιτάζει τη Leal. Φοβόταν μήπως οι άλλοι νόμιζαν ότι κρύβο κοίταζε τα κινητά τους. πατέρας μου μου είχε πει ότι το οπτικό πεδίο πέραν του 80% αντιλαμβανόμαστε είναι διαφορετικό από το συνηθισμένο και ότι αυτό προκαλεί την περιέργεια του ανθρώπου. Ο πατέρας μου δεν κρυφοκοίταζε τους άλλους και δεν άνοιγε τους άλλους να τον κρυφοκοιτάνε, ακόμα και αν ήταν απλώς μια τυχαία ματιά. Ο καιρός είναι πολύ κακός σήμερα. Η επιτάφια Steele είναι ασυνήθιστα κρύα. Κοιτάζοντας την ταφόβλακα, αναρωτιέμαι πόσα ζευγάρια μάτια να τον κρυφοκοίτανε τώρα.
It's been 2 days since I last ate. But that's okay. I've been through worse. Oof. Ugh. Let's just stay positive. You found bread. Thanks, Mochi. I can't take it anymore. Recovering is too hard. What's the point in surviving if I'm not truly living? If I'm not even happy? My world is in ruins and I have no way of coping! Ow. Huh? An underground arcade? Huh. I feel like I've been here before. Don't worry, Mochi. I'm okay. Just wait there. I'll look for a way back up. Ah! Don't scare me like that ever again. I'm already stressed enough as it is. I knew this place was familiar. I used to come here all the time with my family. Cross Cafe! They have it in the latest edition too? I'll be quick. I just want to see if I can log into my old account. Mochi, look! A banner's still up. There's Lucian and Faria, my first love. I never had the chance to win you back then. What? But I've been bored since forever and I know we need food, but what about my mental health, my sanity? Look! They have a vending machine. Can't we stay here for a little while? Please? I love you so much. I promise we'll leave soon. Once I get to win these two.
Congratulations! You won!
You're next, Lucian. Just 100 more pulls and you'll be mine.
Keep it up. Amazing! Perfect! Don't stop now!
What's the matter, boss? You've been distracted lately.
Should we close for the day? I'll brew your favorite drink.
No, I'm good. I just feel... Wait, this is all wrong. I'm missing something. Someone.
Oh, did I do bad on my first day?
Of course not. It's not your fault.
That's someone you're missing. Sure that's not me?
Are you kidding? It's obviously me.
We could always share. Huh? Isn't that what you want? Everything here is perfect, as it should be.
No! You're both OOC! None of this is real! Mochi, wait! Where are you going? My old room. I remember this. This isn't healthy for me. For Mochi. I've gone too far, just like before. How did I forget?
Congratulations! You won!
Mochi! Where did you go?
Congratulations! You won!
Mochi?
Oh my god! A bear?
Oh, Laszlo! Could you actually turn off the lights again? I think I was onto something.
In the dark?
Look, I've been in enough cases to know that you cannot rule every detail out, so with that, I just thought I would try my hand at turning off the lights since it'll help boost my other senses and perhaps give me a new lead that way. Or, at least so it said in the article I read online earlier. No harm in doing that, right?
Right, well, while you've been doing that, I managed to get a file with info about the victim here. I only got the chance to skim through the first page, but from what I read, the guy who lived here seemed to be some kind of audio engineer. Though I don't know much of any engineers that need to soundproof their whole apartment to this extent. Much less to the point in us having to bring our own blackboard to do his chalk outline properly.
Laszlo, to say he was just an audio engineer would be putting it lightly.
Come again?
Apparently he was a former auditory scientist who worked for a research institution that made strides in weaponizing sound.
Oh.
Furthermore, he was let go from said institution on the basis of attempting to hoard his findings in order to sell it to the highest bidder. That sort of explained the sheer amount of soundproofing plastered all over this place. Though, I'm still at a loss as far as why he went ahead and did the same thing with the insides of all these drawers over here. Yeah, that's beyond me.
I suppose I should have been more thorough when reading this earlier. Right, well, let's try and wrap this up as quickly as possible. I wouldn't want some sound-based trap in here to go off and have us end up like our friend here, you know?
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, who knows what other dastardly things this guy had cooped up in here. Maybe a soundbite of that one song you had on repeat in the patrol car on the way here will come out and attack us!
Hey, cut it out! Get off my case!
Oh, sorry. I just really needed a good laugh. Though you do have a point. Considering how there haven't been any signs of a gun or bullet around here to link to the gaping hole left in the bastard's head paired with what we know now, I'd say the stakes have risen bar none. Oh.
Alright, thanks for the words of comfort. Well, I, for one, am gonna step outside for a moment to take a little breather.
Wait, before you go.
You actually serious? I thought you were just joking.
Ovaterasmo, WeiQi od Olympia manne, Steele dimulitiki, ja Dalia problemata. Ja näin biisi, se piti mies kävi on propo, ei kiinnosti se vuosi. Stoidio, älä se purjattu sopinakas. Ja pirhaa metritä on tihla vastuspiti. Olympia, fene dei monadi kiefira epikinomias, analysis semena, keromateramu. Ovaterasmo muuta tähän velmoiseen oli käläty siitoneessa. Veitevänä sinuille älys, ja ikojen kiesa oteesis. Veodi pisteveodiattoon, oli aplaa, väitämä piuseet iipiti mietus, mono ja kataskopia.
Water, what all living things depend on, and a resource we are using to destroy our own environment. Our ancestors invented and discovered many things, technology that made us more effective hunters, builders, and farmers. By utilizing the Earth's resources, our ideas quickly grew more and more complex. The Roman Empire was home to millions of people, all of whom needed water. The Romans built gravity dams to control hydraulic flow, providing advanced irrigation methods and drinking water to cities, as well as the ability to carry away used water and waste. During the Industrial Revolution, dams were created on a larger scale. Dams could hold back more water and were able to power factory machinery. In the early 1900s, the electricity demand decreased, and we entered into a big dam building era. It was during this time that the Hoover Dam was built, a dam that still supplies 8 million people electricity each year. But unfortunately, like most man-made inventions that alter the environment, dams disrupt the way a river naturally functions. Dams divert water for power and other uses, causing dramatic changes in water levels. This can leave vast expanses completely dewatered at times, killing thousands of fish in the process. Dams alter the flow of a river, causing substantial changes to groundwater storing floodplains and wetlands. These changes can lead to the destruction of forests. The forests that, among other things, help regulate the local climate. Recent research has found that reservoirs contribute 1 billion tons of annual carbon dioxide equivalents, meaning that reservoirs contribute to 1.3% of the global total. These emissions are 25% higher than was previously thought. In many ways, dams are a perfect example of humans altering their environment and it having unexpected effects. So what should we do? How can we find a balance between the needs of humans and the needs of our environment? Well, sometimes we find cracks in our progress, but man has always found a way. Let's find the way.
I can now tell the nuances between cheddar and Gruyere. I have discovered that I do not like Gruyere. It's too sour. It leaves a lingering aftertaste. It is crazy to think that never before had I refused food. It's strange. I never thought brilliance would garner this much attention. The complexity of the puzzles I solve seems to determine their interest of me. I am treated better. But I am better, and I am smarter than them. It's only natural that they would want to treat me this way. I no longer find their puzzles intellectually stimulating. They're treating me like a moron. Sometimes I find humor in that. Sometimes I'm offended by it. More often than not, though, I'm just bored. Why do I keep failing? It is hard, but I think not supposed to. Solving the puzzle these people gave me, I think I used to be able to.
My mind feels blurry. I'm scared. I don't want to lose myself.
Cheese. I like cheese. This food tastes good.
This way we're gonna be free, Vignes.
Kung meron man akong pinagsisisihan, yun yung hindi ko nasabi yung nararamdaman ko para sa'yo. Sa unang kita ko pa lang sa'yo, alam kong gagawin ko lahat ng bagay na gusto mo. Kahit sa kapahamakan mo pala ako dinala. Pero pinatawad pa rin kita kasi hindi rin naman kita matitiis. Hanggang noong isang araw, umiiyak ka. Para sabihin sa akin na buntis ka, tumigil ang mundo ko. Ang sakit pala. Ang sakit mo palang mahalin. Lalo na nung dinugtungan mo na kinahasa ka ng iyong ama. Naiiyak ako sa galit kasi wala akong magawa. Matagal ko nang alam na sinasaktan ka ng ama mo. Kasi kahit anong pilit mong itago, nakikita ko ang mga pasamo pag pumapasok ka sa eskwelahan. Sinubukan kong ireklamo ito noon sa mga otoridad pero walang aksyon na nangyari kasi makapangyarihan ang ama mo. Sana patawarin mo ko sa aking ginawa dahil sinubukan kong ilagay ang batas sa aking kamay sa sobrang galit sa iyong ama. Sana malaman mo na ginawa ko lahat ng yun para mailigtas ka. Ganon kita kamahal. Dalia.
Hahagpang palapit sa'yo, kabatong hinahabol ang paghinga. Baon ang mga salitang para sa'yo lang. Himig ng dibdib kumakabog dito sa silid kung saan parang tayo lang at walang nakapaligid. Heto na ko, lalapit na sa'yo, ipapadama na ang nadarama.
Meron naman akong pinagsisisihan. Yun yung hindi ko masabi yung nararamdaman ko para sa'yo. Sa unang kita ko pa lang sa'yo, alam kong gagawin ko lahat ng bagay na gusto mo. Kahit sa kapahamakan mo pala ako dinala. Pero pinatawad pa rin kita kasi hindi rin naman kita matitiis. Hanggang isang araw, umiiyak ka. Para sabihin sa akin na buntis ka, tumigilan mo. Ang sakit pala. Ang sakit mo palang mahalin. Lalo na yung dinugtungan mo na kinahasa ka.
All right. So we have two more winners that I'd like to announce here. The first winner we're going to announce is kind of we call the Dean's Choice. So this was a choice from the festival co-hosts from the International Services and Programs Department. So they have their own winner they particularly liked. So this was their choice for their favorite or Dean's Choice Award. So I'll show the winner of that. And then the last one is a special, and I'll get to that in a moment. So that was our winner for the Dean's Choice Award. And now I have a special category that you're going to help me with. So all of you are going to help. You're going to vote on your favorite film. So hopefully this will work. I don't know if this will work. So I have a QR code I'm going to hand out here. And then we're going to quick tally that. But while we tally that, I have some gift cards. So the winner is with one vote, Young Sprouts. So congratulations to them. All right, so I want to thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank you all. I hope it was both fun, entertaining, inspiring. I hope you enjoyed the panels, both Carlos Vasquez from Sony talking about, you know, coming in and getting into the industry. I hope it gave you some pointers, some tips to how to craft your portfolio. And then our panel discussion here, I think was very informative, very enlightening, and very interesting. All the animators there had something great to say. I hope you had a chance to chat with them, or Claire from Noman. And I hope you enjoyed the films. As you saw, there was a lot of variations from a lot of different countries. Bless you. And I'm really happy to see such great work. I hope it inspires you all. So have a great rest of your day. And I hope to see you all soon again.